Recording. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Adulting 101 Sewing Workshop. My name is Carrie Pinoni, and I work for Maryland Business Roundtable for Education. I'm the Next Generation Scholars Program Coordinator for Allegheny County, and I'm super excited to have our special guests today, Lacey Ashby and Sarah Bernard from the University of Maryland Extension Office and 4-H programs here in Allegheny County. They're going to be teaching us all the tips and tricks about sewing. And so let's get started. I'm going to share our little agenda and kind of, let's see here, our reminders before we get started. Let's see here. Can everyone see Sewing 101? Awesome. All right. So for your introductions, we're going to do that. And then there's just a list of agenda items that we're going to go over today. Our topics include sewing kits, threading a needle, sewing a button, sewing a seam or hem. And then we're going to have our questions and survey like we always do at the end before we wrap up. First item for your introductions, please put your first name, your county, your school and grade, and then share a clothing mishap if you had one. If not, just write none and put that all in the chat if you haven't already done so. Also, just some housekeeping, microphone off unless you're speaking. You can ask questions throughout, just raise your hand. Hit that raise your hand symbol right beside your mic and webcam icons at the bottom of the screen, and you can, and we'll call on you. And then you have to take yourself off of mute. So keep your microphone off, but then keep your cameras on. And then you're also always welcome to ask a question in the chat anytime. So let's get started. And I'll put it back to you, Lacey. Thank you, and Sarah for joining us. I'll let you take it from here.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. My name's Lacey Ashby, and I'm the 4-H educator in Allegheny County.
And I'm Sarah Bernard, and I'm actually with the Youth FNEP program, Expanded Food Nutrition Education Program with the University of Maryland.
And for those of you who have been on our other workshops, you might remember Lacey from earlier in the week for our laundry workshop, and Miss Sarah helped us with our cooking workshop as well a couple weeks ago. So thank you, ladies, and go ahead and start. Let me know if you need the PowerPoint back up.
Okay. Well, I think what we're going to start with now is we're going to do a materials race. Okay. And items. So if they would take a few minutes to see if they have a needle, thread, maybe a scrap of material, a button, and some scissors, preferably sewing scissors, not craft scissors, and maybe some kind of a jar or container that they might think they would want to use to make a sewing kit out of. So if they take just maybe about 2 or 3 minutes to gather that stuff up. If they don't have it, that's perfectly fine. We understand that you might not have those things.
Okay, so ready, set, go. Go grab your supplies, and I'll list in chat if you missed that. And without having to, let me see here. These are the items that you need, and it's listed in chat. I apologize, when you copy and paste it made it look much bigger. But needle, thread, scrap of fabric, a button, and scissors. So,
and a container for a sewing kit.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a jar, it could be a box, it could be anything.
Also, if you can, please, turn on your cameras so we can see you, and better interact. And then also it'll help me know if you're back with all your supplies. If you do not have that and you don't have those available, just type it in the chat if you would let us know if you're not going to be looking for those supplies. And if you are and you can still hear me, make it a quick materials race. On your mark, get set, go, right?
Yeah, a lot of households now, if you're not a sewer, a lot of people don't have these items
Right.
in their house. So
Mm-hmm.
if they've had home ec in school already, they may have those supplies if they had a sewing kit and that from school.
Okay.
I guess they still sew in school.
I think you get that in middle school. You get basically half a, I think it might be a semester long work class on sewing.
You do
Every
sew
district.
in middle school.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We did sew in middle school.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So do you remember or have you pretty much forgotten? Oh, cool. Buttons, I see. Josephine has buttons. Was that Jessie that you had said you didn't sew in middle school?
We all did, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, is everybody back?
All right. For those of you who are just joining us, I see we added Andrew. Welcome to the workshop. We're doing a little materials race. So if you want to take a second, we might go ahead and get started. But if you have a needle, thread, scrap fabric, a button, and maybe even a little jar, like a mason jar, we're going to start with that. So, all right,
Okay.
we're ready, Sarah.
So can everybody see my table? Can you see my table? Okay.
Yes.
I have different types of variations of sewing kits. And the very back, I have my sewing kit here for the house. Can you see that? So it's a larger, it's actually made for a sewing kit. It was store-bought. It has a little thing here for your pins and needles. It has a little pocket for needles and that. It has a tray. And in my tray, of course, I have my threads. I have a measuring tape. I have extra bobbins for my sewing machine. I have some pins. I have a marking pencil and that. And I have a magnet. Everybody needs one of these. And you can get these at Surplus City for 99 cents. So if you're going to be sewing, when you spill your pins, you just put them in there and it picks them all up. So that is a must-have if you can for your sewing kit. And then in the bottom of my sewing kit, I have bigger items. I have more pins. I have some needles. And I have several different pairs of scissors. Now, these scissors that you're using, you use fabric scissors, not craft scissors. These are pinking scissors. I don't know if you can see the blades on those. They're kind of curly-cued. These are pinking shears and everything. So this is a basic sewing kit. Some people have more in theirs. I don't do a lot of sewing anymore. I mean, I have machines, but I want to get back into it. But for now, I have another whole big box full of sewing stuff. You can make a sewing kit. You don't have to have something this big. If you're at school or like we said, the emergency sewing kit, this is a sewing kit here, very small. Will fit in your pocket. And the only thing that this doesn't have in it is actually scissors, but it has a little thimble. It has some needles and pins, and it has thread. And I could actually put a needle threader in that too, if I had to. You don't have to get really fancy with these sewing kits. Here's one made out of a Altoids box. These I bought at Joann Fabrics. They're little folding scissors, and they fit in there perfectly. Now these were actually on sale. They were about $7, and these are actual sewing scissors. And you can see that they
Nice.
get to be, and they're really compact because they fold up. There again, Joann's Fabrics, about $7. They're on sale this week. You get, we're about $6. Okay, another thing here is someone gave me a sewing kit. This basically has supplies in it. It's a big mason jar. They made a little bonnet for the top of it. And this basically has threads and buttons in it. So to hold some of your sewing supplies. I have another little jar here that I put threads in. So you can use these jars. You can line them up on your shelves. You can see what's in them. To make your own little jar, you want to make sure too that when you're making your jar, that your mouth of your jar is big enough for your things to go in. Here I have, this is a plastic peanut butter jar or a mayonnaise jar that you can use. Plastic is always good too, because if you drop it, it won't break. But here's now see, this here barely fits my magnet, but my scissors won't fit in there. I guess you can see here how they won't fit, but they will fit in this jar. So you have to see what kind, but now my little folding scissors will fit in this jar. And I also found some little scissors at Surplus City, 99 cents. So if you don't want to get real expensive, go to Surplus City first for your supplies. This will clip threads and necessary things. It's not going to cut fabric and stuff like that, but for repairs and that, it will do the job, and it will fit in my mason jar. So another little thing, I found a little tin, a little kitty cat tin. So you might have something like this at home that you want. And in it, and get it open, is my sewing kit. I have scissors, another little pair of scissors. I have threads. I have a thing with my needles and pins. I have extra buttons. I have some safety pins. Make sure if you're in your sewing kit, always put some safety pins in there, because if you don't have a needle and thread, you can always repair a lot of things with safety pins till you get home. A needle threader, there's a thimble in there. So I got a lot in this little tin. It's a little decorative thing. So if you're going to college or therefore on your dresser at home, sets up there, it looks like a little cat sitting there, but actually it's your sewing kit. Another thing you can do, these little zipper pouches, you can make a sewing kit out of just about anything. For school, if you want to take it with you, and some of you maybe off to college and stuff, you can put that in there, put it in your notebook. So if you're in gym class and that, you get a tear or something, there's your sewing kit right there with you in your notebook. This one here is a store-bought kit from Walmart, and they have all different types. This one was about $7. It has like 64 items. That's including the pins and needles, but it has a pair of scissors, small scissors. There again, tape measure. It has some little pencils, a thimble, a variety of threads, pins, needles, and some buttons. Very small. It could fit in a purse if you're going on vacation. It will fit in your suitcase. Very nice. So getting back to my jar here, what I did was I used a mason jar, and you just take your piece of material here. You make a round piece of material, and we're going to show you some stitches here in a little bit. We're going to just do a straight stitch around there, and you leave the ends out, and you're going to pucker that. And let me see here. I already have the pins and stuff in here, so I need to take them out. But as you can see, as I pulled the threads on this, it puckered that and made like a circle. Okay. And then what you do is you take some fiber fill and you put here on the top of your lid. I didn't have fiber fill right now, so I use cotton balls. Cotton balls are not the best thing to use because the pins really don't want to go down into the cotton balls. But once you get that there, adjust your, I dropped my cotton balls. You need about 6 hands to do this. So just put your cotton balls in there, put that around your lid, your little circle, and close it. Pull that thread tight around there. Don't pull it too tight because your thread will break. but kind of bring that around. Okay, bring that in. You can see it how it kind of came in. Now you can glue this. Okay, maybe even put another little piece of cardboard circle on there and glue that down so it's secure. Or you can just leave it like that. You can glue around your lid thing and just pop that right in there. Or you can just leave it like that in case you don't want it permanent. And then you just screw it. My magnet's too big. Just screw it on the top of your jar like that. And there you've got your sewing kit. And this is your for your needles. With this one, like I said, the cotton balls don't work, so I had to put my pins in at an angle so that they go in your pins and needles. But if you can use fiberfill, that's going to work better. So there you can see.
Awesome. Great.
It's a few minutes, you can have a sewing kit. Yeah.
Great.
Here's another little nifty thing that you need, a magnetic pin thing. So when you're working, I got my pins there. All I got to do is swipe that over them, and they picked them all up. So that's always a nice accessory to have.
I guess you could grab
Pardon?
a magnet off of the fridge if you wanted to keep your pins in place. Right?
Yes, you could try it. I actually tried my refrigerator magnets. They didn't work too well, but yeah, any kind of a magnet would work.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, any questions on sewing kits?
Right.
You
So
can make them big, you can make them small, you can make them tiny, little travel things. I would fit in a man's shirt pocket even, your jean pockets, your pants pockets. So
nice. All right. So we ready to move on? Threading a needle.
Yes. So I'll leave this up here for just a second. So threading a needle, needles come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. Some have a larger hole. Others have a really small one if you're doing beading, but just generically get one with an average size because that's all you're going to need for your daily fixes. Hopefully not daily fixes, but your emergency fixes. One of the biggest things to remember to help you thread a needle is make sure that the ends of your thread are a clean cut, because if it's burred and fuzzy, it's just going to catch when you try to thread it, and it's going to be really, really hard. So just always take a quick nip with a really sharp pair of scissors and get that clean end, and it'll go right through the needle. Once you have it threaded through the eye of the needle, you have to be able to knot it off. So hopefully you can see this. I've doubled this to make it thicker, but if you pinch it here, wrap it around your finger. Oops, I'm too close, sorry. If you wrap it around your finger, and then if you just pull your top finger back and roll it with your thumb, it'll twist it enough and use your middle finger to pull it tight. You get a nice knot there that won't be able to slip out. So around your finger, roll it, pull it tight with your middle finger. That's an easy way to knot it when you get it in the thread.
I see Josephine has her thread and needle. Did you try that? Oh, you can go off mute.
And I can show that one more time too if you want.
I
Pinch
threaded
it.
it before time.
Wrap it around, roll
All
it,
right.
and pull tight.
So were you able to get a knot in the end, Josephine?
Yes.
Awesome.
Great. Good
Great.
job.
All right.
So another thing to think about when you're threading it is obviously your thread color too. So typically you want to have a thread color that either matches the garment that you're going to be putting it into, or if you want to have it really hidden, you could pair it with the button color. Or if it's an inside seam, hopefully you'll never see the stitches, but just in case they would come loose, it's always best to have a thread that matches. But we're going to take a different approach today and use something that completely does not match. That way you can see it better.
Great idea.
So I've actually doubled this again to make it thicker so you can see it better. But when you have your knot at the end and you're all threaded and you go to sew a button on, so you can see this was my husband's pair of shorts that he popped his button off of, but obviously they have a lot of life left in them, so we can just put the button back on. Always go through the back side. That way your knot is on the inside and nobody will ever see it. And if you come up through where you'll see the button came off at, pull it tight there first. So I have my knot on the back. And then I know I came up right where I want my button to be. Then you can go ahead and thread your button on, which buttons come in a lot of different shapes and styles, whether it's some will have a lump back here that you sew through. Others have, this has 2 holes, some have 4 holes. If you're just an emergency, all you got to do is get it through holes. If you're trying to do something that looks nice and maybe is a place on your garment that's more visible, you do want to keep in mind the pattern. So for if it's a 4 hole, whether you do all 4 corners or if you do a consistent X to make it look nice. So this one only has 2 holes, so that once I have it all lined up, I can just go back down through the hole, watch your fingers on the other side, and then just go round and round to do my 2 holes. So you'll have to feel around when you get it up through the fabric. You'll have to feel around with your needle a little bit to get it back through the other buttonhole. And then you would do this several times until you get enough thread that it's going to hold your button, because you don't want it to just pop off right away again. Okay, and then so I would typically do a few more loops to make this stronger, because right now it's only got 2 circles and that's not going to hold a whole lot of tension. When you go to knot it at the back, if you go through just a little bit of the fabric in your stitches, and don't pull it the whole way. You see how there's this loop here? Take your needle back through that loop, and that essentially makes a knot on the back. And then I always do that 2 or 3 times just to make sure it's going to hold. So you take it just a little bit through the fabric and under your stitches, take your needle back around through that loop and pull it tight, and that makes a knot. And then you can trim your extra thread off here and your button's ready to go.
Awesome. Any questions, anyone? If so, you can put them in the chat. Also, I put a question in the chat. Well, not a question, but if you've ever had a button come off, how about you put it off a garment before? Post yes in the chat. Who here has had that happen? Yes, Jordan has. I should put yes myself. Andrew, nope. No, Andrew has not. I have. Anyone else have a button come off? And Alexis said no. Peyton said no. Okay, you're lucky. Jesse said no. Awesome. All right.
Another thing to remember too with your buttons, they're different size buttons. So if you lose a button and you find one to sew on, make sure that you try it through the buttonhole to make sure it's going to fit, because you'd hate to sew on that button and then it be either too small or too big for your buttonhole, so it won't hold. So make sure that you fit your button to whatever it is that you're sewing. So
All right. So next we have sewing a hem or a seam, right?
yes. Okay, I don't know if you can see this very well, but I have a shirt here and it has a hole in the, let me see here. It has a hole here in the side of the shirt, okay? The only thing with this particular shirt is it's a machine, it's a store-bought shirt, and it has a zigzag or a whip stitch, machine stitch seam in it. The fabric has actually tore, the seam hasn't come apart, but the shirt it's tore, so I can't really pull them together and so it's going to make a little pucker no matter what I do. But anyway, with this, I've knotted the thread, I've anchored it in, and what you're going to do is you're just going to do a straight stitch, what they call a running stitch, and just kind of pull that through, put it back down through, and you want it to be pretty close together. You might even have to go back over it. Okay, and I'm going to show you this stitch on a different thing. But that's going to close that up enough. And this is just an old work shirt of mine that I wear and everything, so it really doesn't. So if it puckers on the side a little bit, it's really not going to matter on this particular shirt. There again, when you get done, just like Lacey said, make a circle, pull that through, bring it up through there, and make sure. And if you have double thread, make sure that you pull both pieces of thread, because you don't want to loop in that thread, because when you clip it, then you're actually not, you're going to clip your thread and your knot is going to come out. So let me show you that here on this piece of material. Okay, so we have our seam, okay, and it has come open. And I'm going to use this bright yellow thread, which I've already threaded the needle, tie a knot in it. In that. Can everybody see this? I hope. So I'm going to come up from the back side, pull it through to where my knot is. Actually, I didn't even knot that. Okay, make sure that your seams are together, your materials together, and there again, in a line, just go down and back up. Okay, and then pull your thread. And then just go down. And you want, like I said, depending on what you're sewing, you want them close together. The stitch I'm doing here is basically, it's a straight stitch, but it's also a base stitch. So if you're sewing a garment and that, and you want to kind of get it together before you sew it on the machine, you do what they call a base stitch, and it kind of holds the garment together until you can actually sew it on the machine. And those stitches are a lot bigger. They're still the straight stitch, but okay, so that's one thing. You just continue on with it. The next stitch here, you have about 5 basic stitches. One is a straight stitch. Then we have the back stitch, which is the strongest hand stitch you can do. So it's just almost like the straight stitch. You start through, but once your thread is out here, you go behind where you came through and then come out in front of it and pull your thread through. And then you go behind your thread and then back in front. Then you go behind and in front, and that's the back stitch. Okay, and you can see it's a stronger stitch. And then on the back, as you can see here, we have the running stitch. You can see the stitches here, but the back stitch almost makes a solid line. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. The other one is a whip stitch, and you could do this on those seams too. And that's where you take your thread and you go around the material. So you have your materials together here, and you come up through and you come around, and then you go back over the material. And it's a decorative stitch. Sometimes you can also do this for when you're sewing like stuffed animals and stuff, and you need to sew the little hole or a pillow. So does everybody, can you see that that stitch across the top? Can you see that right here?
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you're going to do a hem, let me so let's say you have a pair of jeans or something like that needs a pants that has come out. It's very easy to take these stitches out too, because I didn't knot that, but you just put your needle, if you don't have a thread ripper, and now those back stitches are hard to come out. They're not coming out. But this whip stitch, see, all I have to do is put that in there. So if I make a mistake, I can take it out very easy. If it's a base stitch, once you sew your permanent stitches, you can get that out. Okay. Now for a hem, usually your pants is like this. Your blue, so you want to pull it up on the inside out. So you want to hem your pants inside out, okay? or whatever it is that you're hemming. And it's almost a little bit like a whip stitch. So you kind of come in from this side, from the, so your thread isn't seen. Okay, there's your little tail, and then you want to anchor it. Okay, so that's not going to pull. Now this is almost like a buttonhole stitch. You kind of want to loop your thread around. Just grab a little bit of material on the front, your material on the back, and pull that up through the loop. Make your loop. Catch a little bit of your material on the front, your material on the back, and pull it through.
Sarah, do they refer to that as also, is it similar to a blanket stitch?
Yeah, or a buttonhole stitch.
Okay.
It could be a blanket, yeah. And then, so like I said, make the circle, just catch your material. And the trick to this is that is on the front, you want to catch this, when I turn this over, you can't hardly see that yellow thread on this side on that red. And that's what you want. You don't want to be able to see that on the other side when you put your pant leg down and everything. So you just want to catch just a very little bit on your main leg, and then you can catch a little bit more on what's folded up. But that's a hem, to make a hem. There again, if it's a temporary fix and you need it, just make that straight stitch. Then when you get home, sew it on the machine or have someone do it for you. But in an emergency, that will work. Whip stitch would work on this too. You could do a whip stitch. So, okay, any questions on hem?
So we do have one question in the chat that I noticed so far was, how do you start sewing without sewing into a garment? So I'll answer it first, and Sarah can second that. The best thing, if you mean you're wanting to just start sewing and to practice and learn how, to me, the best way is whatever kind of rags. If you have old washcloths that are wore out, you get a sock that's a hole in it. Mm-hmm. That's the best kind of scrap fabric to start with. Or certainly, if you find something at a yard sale for a quarter that you obviously aren't emotionally attached to, if you mess it up, it's no big deal, and you didn't have a lot of money in it.
Okay.
Sarah, do you have other answers, or Jordan, you're welcome to unmute and ask any further details.
Okay. If you want to practice too, this is good. You get your felt scraps, and you can make your needle a needle book. So this is just 2 pieces of felt, and I took the pinking shears and decorative scissors and made a little fancy thing around that. In the middle here, you see the pink thread, and that's just your straight stitch. So you can practice on that and just do your straight stitch. When you get that done, then that folds, it makes like a little book then, okay? So you got 4 200 pages and the outer one. This is where you put your pins and needles. Okay, then on the outer flap, you can sew, and this you can hand sew that, or you can do a machine. This one was actually done on the machine. They just kind of sewed that back and forth to anchor that hair tie. This is a hair tie on there. Then you can put some little elastics in here and that for your scissors and different things, or make a little pocket if you want to add your other stuff. Then you can fold it up here, sew your button, practice sewing your button, and put, let me see, where's my button? Okay, there, sew your button on there. I didn't get a very big button to show you. And then you just loop that over, and that goes around your button, and that holds it shut. So you can practice on some things like this, your different stitches. Go online. There's videos there to show you different types of stitches, embroidery stitches. And there again, you could get an embroidery hoop, use an old scrap of material, and just practice some of your stitches.
Awesome.
There again, even your washcloth, fold it up, practice your hems, and things like that, like Lacey said.
And Lacey put in the chat her email. And obviously, if you have any questions you have my email as well, and I can always forward it to Sarah or Lacey if you forget. But I think we've about wrapped it up. Now we have some questions at time if you have any other questions, but we want you to also take our quick survey, and I'm going to bring that up on the screen right now. So I'm going to copy and paste it in the chat as well. And but if you have an iPhone, you can take a picture of this QR code and the link should pop up automatically. If you have an Android phone, you may have to have had downloaded a QR code app to do the same. If not, you can just click on the link either way. But I'm going to share those in the chat, and we'd love to have your feedback. So please take a minute right now before we wrap up to take this survey. So click on the link, and I will also put the QR code in the chat.
While they're doing that, Carrie, I wanted to let them know, when you do your scissors, these are sewing scissors. When you have your fabric scissors, do not use them for craft scissors. These are special scissors for material, and your craft scissors will not cut material. So if you are getting into sewing and going to make something, and even crafts, if you're doing something with felt or material, use the proper scissors, because if not, it's not going to work, and you'll ruin your material scissors, and they cost a lot more than your craft scissors. The craft scissors you can get for $1 at Walmart. Now these are $7, $8, $10 or even higher. So be careful with that.
That's a great tip, Sarah. I remember my mom, when I was a kid, always getting after me if I would take her sewing scissors.
Mhm.
And she would not like that, because they're meant to just do sewing, and to be able to cut fabric, you have to just use them solely with fabric,
Right.
and not with paper and other construction projects that I would do. So any other questions? Everyone good? Thank you, Sarah
Carrie?
and Lacey. Yes.
So I also shared with you a link to a really nice sewing guidebook from University of Kentucky.
Oh,
If you'll
okay.
be sending that link out also.
Yes, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Thank you. Oh, Josephine in the chat. Awesome. We lost your video, but it looks like it said you sewed a button on your own. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for playing along for those of you who were able to do so with supplies. Thank you also to our guests, Lacey Ashby and Sarah Bernard from the 4-H programs and University of Maryland Extension Office in Allegheny County. And on behalf of the Maryland Business Roundtable for Education, I'm so thankful that you joined us today for our workshop. I just want to remind you that you're always welcome to follow Maryland Business Roundtable for Education. All of you join our Facebook site, and you can keep in touch with our updates and any other future workshop opportunities that come available. We post them on our social media. As well, you're welcome to download our free app. It's called Way to Be. It's on Apple and Android. You can download it from the App Store. And it has game-like challenges to help you learn about college and learn about careers. So if you don't know what you're interested in doing for the future, definitely check it out. It's a great free resource. So thank you again, ladies. I really appreciate this. And thank you for, if everyone wants to take a moment to thank the ladies in the chat, that would be awesome. They did a great job putting all this together. And we are going to be sending a recap email, as we do after every workshop, with a link to some other helpful information that Lacey just mentioned. So thank you again. And you guys have a great day and a great weekend and the rest of your summer. Thank you for joining us for Adulting 101. See ya.
Bye.